Oh, that is great. It's a culmination of 161 years of the Bryans in the masonry industry. That's when they started. My grandfather in 1854, St. Louis. And from him, I'd say there's probably 25 bricklayers and at least 15 mason contractors, and I'm the last. And I'm the youngest of the over 100 grandchildren. I started right away as a apprentice bricklayer right out of high school, and but I had a football scholarship to Loyola, but I decided. But Dad said he could do it. I stay out 1 year, learn the trade in a year, and then go to college. Then I can go ahead and during the summer work as a bricklayer. And but the problem was, at 19 I got married. Never got to college. So I served as an apprentice, then went into the Air Force and was a navigator and the B-24s. And after the war, I started out as a foreman for 2 years, 3 years, well, until 47. 47 I got my license at 25, and contracted until 62, well, the end of 62. It actually stopped in 63 and established this state association of mason contractors. And I kept all my equipment for 4 or 5 years, forklifts and scaffold and everything. Then I realized I was never going to get back to it. So it went on for 47 years. And officers were always asking me, when are you going to retire? You've got to get somebody to take your place and have them ready. And I said, well, hell, you've got to finish the century anyway. And so, to a big surprise to me, we have a meeting down in Palm Springs in 2000. I think it was in April or September of 2000. And they put on a big roast, and it was a retirement party. And they brought in 3 comedians from Vegas here in the party, big party. And I said, gee, you got it all wrong. When I said to finish the century, I said my century. I didn't talk about 2000. It was my century, so they're way. So I worked another 9 years after the retirement party. Retired in 2009.
Wow. And
Julie Truss took my place. She did a good job. Julie.
Awesome. It's a long time, huh?
Yeah. Well, but I was telling them about these fellows from St. Louis, where my grandfather started the trade, and there was only 3 tradesmen. And that was the mason, carpenter, and the plumber. All the rest were laborers. And the mason put in the foundation. This is before they used concrete. It was a stone, big stones they put in the ground for the foundations. On top of that, they'd build the brick walls. Then they're the ones that did the plastering. They plastered the walls, and then styled all in tile. And then in the last, they put on the roof, the slate roofs. And they'd take these slate shingles, and they had a little hammer with a little square bullnose on the end that tap it like that, it punched a hole. And then they used the old handmade square nails to nail those shingles down. That was the last thing on the job. So the mason was right from the beginning to the end. And eventually, when the mason contractors really started, it really started at about the turn of the century in New York, where we used to call the front lumpers. The front lumpers were the bricklayer. He'd get a crew, labor, and he does the fronts of the buildings, all the face brick. The general contractor would furnish all the scaffold, do all the backup, hire their bricklayers, do all the backup, and the front lumpers did nothing but the face brick on the fronts. And then that got kind of competitive in the International Union. It wasn't good out there lumping, so they passed the outlaw front lumping. So those front lumpers most of them became mason contractors, took over the whole job. You could take over everything and be a mason contractor. So that started right there in New York. Biggest challenge? Well, it never stops. The challenge is concrete. and eventually they might learn that masonry is so much better than concrete. Concrete is brittle and it cracks. Masonry is flexible. It's like the difference between a piece of plywood and a straight piece of board. You know, plywood, you can bend it and bend it and bend it and it stays together. Even if it does come apart, it's stringy whole. Wood just splits. So that's about a comparison between masonry and concrete. Concrete's too rigid. There's nothing that'll withstand an earthquake if it's strong enough. But you want the one that'll last the longest. And in a small quake, concrete will go quick because it's too rigid and can't withstand that move. The masonry can absorb that shock and it can move, and so eventually they might learn that the masonry does it. Well, they always say if you're the most successful high bidder, you might be a better contractor than the one that takes the job. Yeah, you got to worry that the lowest one gets that every job. And sometimes they might be right, but 90% of the time, a lot of them are too low. So, mason contractors they're trying to find the other guy's bid and go under it. That's what ruins them. They got to bid their own and know what it costs and do it. Now they've got to look at their own numbers.